Now to a story about the process of healing from enormous sadness and grief. Every year in Australia, more than 2,000 people choose to take their own lives, with nearly 200 of those from South Australia. While there's a growing focus on suicide prevention, not so much is done to help those left behind when a life ends too soon. Inevitably, they're confronted with questions that will never be answered. But as Caroline Winter reports, many are now finding ways to receive and offer support.
What's your basket, Mum?
Oh, you found it. Wow.
Can you get that one? Give that to Mum.
When a life has been taken so suddenly, I find it very difficult to not being able to save them, having the guilt and feeling of I should have done something, or I could have said something, or why didn't I notice?
Lauren and Todd Salter are soon to bring another new life into the world.
These are perfect.
That'll be great for that horse.
Yeah, we'll be able to fuse them together.
Use the copper wire.
Yeah.
But as they look forward, a tragic past is never far from their minds.
Let's go.
2 years ago, Lauren lost a family member to suicide. Dealing with the grief of that loss and healing from the hurt continues to be a long, hard journey, but she's found solace in art.
I basically wanted to bring back the lost loved ones, and that's where I have started to create, because obviously I can't do that. I use the bones from the animals to actually bring them to life.
During long walks around her hills town of Callington, Lauren collects items such as animal bone fragments, feathers, old chains, wood and metal, and transforms them into thought-provoking works of art.
The one in particular is of a female. She's the skull of an animal. She's holding a mirror. It represents that as a society, we all are obsessed with beauty. We've all got to look our best, and our hair needs to be perfect and things like that. And none of us are fully content with just being happy with who we are.
More than 30 works will be on sale next year at an exhibition titled Work to the Bone, inspired by this creation.
He's got no fingers, and he's in the cage, and he's been trapped, and he's got all of his food littered around, which are just turned to skeleton as well.
In a way I can't explain, but I believe I can break the chain.
She wants the items that brought her comfort in her time of need to raise money for suicide awareness.
If I can make something good come out of something that's so bad, I've done my job.
Come on.
Felicity Stanway's horse Rascal helped her overcome the suicide of 2 family members.
Looking back on it now, I was in a pretty deep grief. I went into, you'd function normally on the outside to most normal people. On the inside, you just, you'd spend at home sitting all day on the couch or, letting everything else fall apart.
Her chocolate brown gelding reminds her of happier times riding with her father Richard. 10 years ago, he took his life. Then 3 years later, her brother Daniel took his.
With Dad, it was almost like he was driven to a point. I could see. With Daniel, it was hard because I guess there wasn't any real circumstances. I think it was just that he'd gotten into such a low place but didn't have an outlet for it.
Part of Felicity's healing involved taking Rascal on a 9-day trek from Kapunda to Wollonga. Along the way, she spoke to others about her experience, but her breakthrough came in Murray Bridge when she attended a meeting of a support group known as Silent Ripples for people bereaved by suicide. There she met others who understood her pain and shared their wisdom.
One of the biggest things that people don't realise is there's a 60% higher risk in family members taking their own lives, if they've had someone take their own lives. Now, if the support had been available, you sort of go through your mind, well, what if we were offered this kind of support when Dad had died? Would that have saved the life of my brother?
Felicity has now established a similar support group in her hometown of Strathalbyn. Earlier this year, the Pretty Hills town was plunged into grief after what became known as a cluster of suicides.
We encourage anyone that even if they're not sure, they can just come and sit and listen and understand that they're not the only ones that have lived through it, and to be around people who have.
We're all here to support each other.
Janet Guys started the Murray Bridge support group after her son Aaron committed suicide 4 years ago.
It is the worst thing that a mother can do, is to lose a child. Sorry.
The Murray Bridge Silent Ripples group meets twice a month to organise activities, to remember birthdays and anniversaries, and to talk.
We just need support. We just need to know that we're not the only ones out there that are feeling this loss and feeling that we're being shunned by a lot of society.
And dealing with society often compounds the grief.
They don't know how I feel. They don't know that I have a nervous breakdown. They don't know that I lost 3 years of my life. They don't know still how I feel, how bad I feel.
Silent Ripples member Elaine is still grieving the loss of her brother after 20 years.
I feel this whole new identity as to what I had before.
For others, like Tammy, the pain is very recent. She lost her husband and the father of their children 12 months ago.
To walk in here tonight, where I don't have to put on a smile and pretend everything's great, just means so much. I can have a cry here and people know exactly how I feel.
Group members believe they may also be helping to reduce more occurrences.
If you look through some of the statistics, you find that there are multiple suicides in some families. One goes after the other because they just can't cope with the grief we've all gone through, and there's no outlet. So in actual fact, looking after the people that are bereaved might actually help to cut the suicide rate itself to a point, you know.
Those involved say many more suicide bereavement groups are needed, especially in regional areas, but funding remains a problem.
We had to become incorporated so that we can even access any funding. We're still going through all of the general kind of funding and grant lists to see what we can access. It is really quite impossible.
Despite that, Janet says she'll keep fighting for more support for those who are left behind. And those who also understand the human toll of suicide will continue on their own path. Felicity Stanway and Rascal will again take to the countryside next year to make the Silent Journey trek and speak openly about the unspoken, while Lauren Salter will continue to raise awareness through her creations.
If your neighbour or your friend doesn't look well, say something, do something, try and save a life.
Carolyn Winter with that story. And if you or anyone you know needs information or counselling on this issue, Lifeline can be contacted on the number on your screen, and the Silent Ripples group featured in that story can be contacted through its website.